Did you have a good Christmas, everyone? I certainly did. Oh my God, my head hurts. Or is it this ridiculous hat? Anyway, I hope you had a good time. Obviously, yesterday was Christmas Day. If you're watching this video on Boxing Day, if it's gone for too long, it means it's going to take hours to upload. And it's not Boxing Day anymore, but that's when I'm recording this episode. Anyway, it was Christmas Day yesterday. We had a Doctor Who Christmas episode. I was so excited. I started binging some of the old Christmas specials. I mean, I see the, what's it called? The Uncharted Dead, the one by Gatiss in season 1 or season whatever, right? I mean, by now it's, the numbers of the seasons are irrelevant. But anyway, right, so Gatiss did a kind of Christmassy Charles Dickens episode, if you remember. So I rewatched that. Then the fabulous Christmas Invasion. Then the even more fabulous The Runaway Bride. I was in the mood for some brand new Doctor Who Christmas special. Even though us Doctor Who fans know and understand that Doctor Who has been pretty bad and middle of the road for quite a number of years now, we're gluttons for punishment. Joy to the Well, the Christmas special that aired yesterday with the fabulous Nicola Coughlan, was a middle of the road episode. It was neither bad, good, or great. I was sitting there after eating my beautiful chicken that took me 2 hours to get just right. So I was a bit bloated, I was a bit uncomfortable. I was dying to go to the toilet, but I held it in because I was watching it on live television. I didn't want to miss anything. Not because I was enjoying it that much, because I wanted to do this. And halfway through, I had the impression that I really didn't want to re-watch this. Like the classic Doctor Who Christmas specials, you can watch again and again and again. The Christmas Invasion, so many times. The Runaway Bride. Voyage of the Damned, which isn't everyone's cup of tea. The Next Doctor, which I adore. At the End of Time, parts 1 and 2. A Christmas Carol, so many great Christmas specials. This wasn't one of them. I want you to imagine something. Imagine in The Runaway Bride, in the middle of the episode, if Catherine Tate just vanishes and the Doctor meets somebody else for about 10 minutes or so? She went missing. We were promised Joy. We were promised Nicola Coughlan as a co-lead, and she went missing. She was done dirty, and we were done dirty. I was watching this episode at the beginning, and you've got this time hotel, a kind of a nifty concept, if you ask me, but execution was everything, and it kind of felt like Matt Smith's final episode. The title of that escapes me. I really liked that episode. But it looked like, that town of Christmas or whatever it was, when he's stuck there. When he's when he's with Anita and he's living in that room for a year, it felt like, a bit like that. And we had so many Moffatisms in this episode, and it wasn't a good thing. Of course, he name-dropped the word, what did he say again? I forgot. Mansplaining, that's right, yeah, so I kind of rolled my eyes at that. I've never met a group of people in one industry that hate their own gender. At this point, they just can't help themselves. But if you give me a great episode of Doctor Who, I couldn't give a damn. But let's get this clear. This was neither a bad, good or great episode of Doctor Who. So I'm watching this episode. You've got Shooty's Doctor, offering everyone breakfast. It's a nifty opening to an episode. Then you see the kind of plot. There's a briefcase. Someone will have it cuffed to their arm. They're in this trance. They say this line, which I forgot what it was, about their flesh being stripped or whatever it was, right? And then the next person gets it and the other person dies. And it goes on and on and on until we get to the Silurian and Joy. In comes the Doctor. That's when the format becomes very, very tired. You've seen so many people put this briefcase on, it's boring. And you know at the beginning stage of this episode, Joy isn't going to die because she's got it handcuffed to her. You know they're going to find some way to get away from it. Nicola Coughlan is a fabulous young actor. She really is. She's very popular. People would have been excited. I was as excited as hearing Kylie Minogue guest starring in The Voyage of the Damned, or Catherine Tate guest starring in The Runaway Bride. It was for a show that's become so middle of the road and so, let's be honest, boring. It was a great announcement and we were all excited. And Nicola genuinely sounded excited for it. But you're guest starring and you go missing for the chunk of the episode. Your character is undercooked. And so many characters have been undercooked by Moffat, Chibnall and RTD. And you can add Nicola Coughlan's Joy to that list. This is merely an episode with a runtime. It's a boring episode. I don't embrace Joy. I neither like her or hate her. Now everyone seems to love the Anita character. I like the Anita character, but you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't tell us you've got Nicola Coughlan as Joy, get rid of her for a chunk of the episode and introduce Anita. Now everyone's going to want more Anita. And that's great for the actor because she could get more work being in Doctor Who. That's if the show isn't cancelled after series 2 or whatever we're numbering it today. So she was good. I understand why everyone loved her, but this should be about Joy. Where's Joy? Well, what it is, because he's stuck in the time hotel, before he goes into the room and sees his other self, they're kind of going with that. It's all very Moffat-y, timey-wimey. It's not a bad thing, but ultimately, I found that quite boring when he's stuck in that room for a year. It didn't interest me. It didn't feel very Doctor Who. It didn't feel very exciting. Again, it's just something that's there. This is just an episode that will exist in Doctor Who's history. It was neither bad or good. I watched it, then I forgot about it. I mean, I'd really like you, the other fans out there, what did you think of this? Was this a great episode? Shall I tell you something? Straight after this, I watched a brand new feature on Wallace and Gromit. It was a brand new Wallace and Gromit adventure. First time I'd ever watched Wallace and Gromit. I enjoyed that, genuinely. The big kid in me enjoyed that more than that episode of Doctor Who, and that shouldn't be the case. These creatives brought back Doctor Who in 2005 in such a great way. RTD, Moffat, Gatiss, all these wonderful people, even Chibnall, right? Chibnall is talented, right? I know a lot of you will say, no, Mick, he's not. He is. They brought the show back so wonderfully. And Chibnall run Torchwood really well. He was the showrunner of Torchwood. He did do a good job. But it's become tired. And what happened when these people were good, even though they had a certain ideology, because the world was sane back then, they weren't allowed to shout that ideology from the rooftop. They still had their commentary, but it was done in a great creative way. And that's what they're not doing anymore. But forget about the mansplaining line. Forget about that, people. You know, the point here is, it was a mid-episode of Doctor Who. Let's be honest. It wasn't bad, it wasn't good, it wasn't great. It was boring. It was mid. It did nothing. I'm watching it. I'm watching an episode that goes on and on. You know, like the recent James Bond film, No Time to Die. Great cinematography, great music. But the story is barely there. The character development is barely there. It's just a movie with music and cinematography that you can watch and listen to, but it's not a very good movie. No Time to Die is actually boring. And this episode of Doctor Who is actually boring. It does nothing. And I'm really not feeling Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor. In fact, Jodie Whittaker, a boring Doctor who's so undercooked and underdeveloped by her showrunner Chris Chibnall, is a better Doctor than Ncuti Gatwa. Is the problem with Ncuti? Is it with the writing and development of Shootie's Doctor? Or is it a bit of both? Maybe it's a bit of both. I would blame RTD more than Shooty. Shooty can only do, what they tell him to do. He can only utter the dialogue they tell him to utter. He can only do what the director tells him to do. So it's not really Shooty's fault. And we don't know what's going on behind the scenes if Shooty is happy with what they've done with his Doctor. The problem with his Doctor, it's too modern. The TARDIS is too slick. That sonic screwdriver, which is no way a screwdriver, he try and call it something else in yesterday's episode as well. It's too slick. There's too many gadgets. It's not what they look. Doctor Who, when Eccleston first appeared as the Doctor, it was modern, but it still felt like the old show. In Eccleston, you saw Tom Baker, you saw Peter Davison, you saw Troughton, you saw Hartnell, you saw them all. You saw McGann all in this actor. And you did with Tennant, and you did with Smith, and you did with Capaldi. But with Jodie Whittaker and Ncuti Gatwa, they're trying to move away from the show's past. And I've said before, you want to call it season 1 and season 2, properly reboot the show, you cowards. But this is boring. We could have had the Happy Valley showrunner, producer, creator, writer in running Doctor Who, but Russell T Davies decided to keep his stranglehold on this show. I love Russell, I do. I love Russell T Davies. I'm grateful to what he did, but he's 60 years old now. It's time to retire from Doctor Who. You or Stephen haven't got any fresh ideas. It's just the same recycled ideas again and again and again. And it's boring. Now, it'll be interesting to see the numbers for this episode. So, no, I didn't like Joy to the World. I think the actors did their best. People are saying the acting was bad. I hate when people say that when they don't like something, the way something's written. The direction saying goes in and they go, well, the acting's bad. No. Don't blame the acting. Actors are very professional. They do their absolute best. And they can only do as much as what's in the script. And there's a director there. Actors, very few actors have any free will. They're the mouthpiece for what the creators are attempting to do. So no, didn't like it, didn't hate it. It was very, very boring. As I say, lots of Moffatisms. I was kind of excited that Moffat was writing this episode. This is the first time in Doctor Who revival history that the showrunner hasn't penned the Christmas special. So it's clear RTD really couldn't be bothered. He had no fresh ideas. And that's another question we should ask. Should we have these Christmas specials? I mean, people were saying this years ago, and I was like, no, it's tradition. It's great. But I think the problem is, like when you see the Christmas Invasion, the episode's not actually about Christmas. When you watch The Runaway Bride, it's not about Christmas. When you watch Voyage of the Damned, it's not about Christmas. Now, A Christmas Carol is more a Christmas-themed episode. The Doctor and the Wardrobe, that one, right? That one was pretty cool, but again, not really about Christmas. I'd love to actually have a proper Christmas story in a Doctor Who Christmas special. Some people don't want that, but I think you need... Look, you're supposed to want to attract kids. Shall I tell you something? Why the revival in 2005 was so successful? Because it appealed to everyone. Kids, mums and mums, dads and dads, mums and dads, everyone, black, white, Asian, everyone, trans, straight, gay, everyone loved what RTD did with the revival of Doctor Who at the beginning. It didn't just attract young people, it didn't just attract him or her or them or they, it attracted everyone, and that's why the ratings were so record-breaking, and that's why they're not so record-breaking anymore. Doctor Who has become a kind of show that people my age watch. I'm 52. And that's the problem. Now, RTD claims young people were watching Series 1. I don't believe you, Russell. I don't believe that people from around 12 to 25 were watching this brand new Doctor Who. I think they love Shooty from Sex Education, and they may have been intrigued at first, but once they saw what they got, I think they said, do you know what? This isn't really our cup of tea. We're not sci-fi fans. We love Shooty in Sex Education, but we're not going to follow him everywhere he goes and watch every role that he plays. That's pretty clear. In fact, his fans preferred him in the Barbie movie than they did in Doctor Who, because I talk to people. You know, I'm on social media a lot. I have to be to do these videos to understand that. So I would give this rating of a 4 out of 10. It really was a boring, bland episode of Doctor Who. Nicola Coughlan, you deserved to be given a character like Catherine Tate was as Donna. You would deserve to be given the kind of character Kylie Minogue was given in Voyage of the Damned. You deserve to be given the kind of character Morrissey was given, I've got his first name, brilliant actor, in The Next Doctor. You deserve more than what you've got. And I'm very sorry that you weren't given that. Now, let's talk about James Gunn. Let's talk about Superman. One thing we know about James Gunn, if you're in the vicinity of him, there is no dead air. I remember watching his DVD, Blu-ray, whatever commentary of his Suicide Squad movie. You know, normally when someone does commentary, sometimes they run out of things to say, they take a breath, and you can hear the movie, not with his commentary of the Suicide Squad. There's never any dead air. Anyway, the reason I'm saying this, because we've heard more and more from what he said from that premiere of that trailer. He had a lot to say to the press. He's called this movie a dark story about a hopeful guy. And that's what I've always said about Superman. He can be in a dark world, but he can't be dark himself. He's got to be hopeful. It's not like Snyder's Superman was a dark character, a bad guy. He was hopeful in Man of Steel. He was probably more hopeful in Man of Steel than he was in BVS. Why is that, by the way? If you're wondering why, was Superman feeling more kind of smiley and more hopeful in Man of Steel than he was in BVS? Because David Goyer and Christopher Nolan penned the story, and Goyer penned the screenplay. In Batman vs Superman, the narrative was Snyder's and Chris Terrier's, and they had a different mentality. And I love BVS and I love the Snyderverse, but they went too far. There's a moment in BVS where Superman goes, nobody stays good in this world. I know he makes the ultimate sacrifice in the end. I know he becomes the Superman we know and love by making that sacrifice. But ultimately, you can't, as much as I love that film, and I don't want people to misunderstand, you can't have Superman in a cinematic movie or a TV show say, no one stays good in this world. It's just not a Superman line to utter. So you can tell from the trailer to James Gunn's Superman film, it's going to be a hugely dark movie with bright popping colours. But it's also going to be Superman's greatest hits. Whether that's because he's adapting a lot of these comics, he's putting things from his favourite comics and our favourite comics, All-Star Superman, Kingdom Come, Smallville, the Smallville TV show, Superman 78. He even says he loves Snyder's action, and he's always been inspired by Snyder's action. He's trying to get all the fans of different things to say, hey, I am not your enemy. I don't want to trample on what you love about Superman. In fact, we're going to feature some of it in my movie. The problem is, no matter how complimentary he is of Zack Snyder, Zack's fans are never going to embrace what James Gunn's doing, because all Snyder fans want is Snyder to continue to make his Superman and his Batman and his Wonder Woman, and at this moment in time, it's not going to happen. Now, we may get some miracle where Snyder fans don't boycott this movie if they really get excited, but the reality is they're still doing hashtag campaigns for Henry Cavill's Man of Steel, you know, for Ben Affleck's Batman, and you know, release the haircut and things like that. So they're not coming to the table. James is trying his best to say, I like your director. I am not your enemy. I'm going to feature things in this movie to celebrate the Snyderverse as well as the Donnerverse, and He said that he was more, he was more inspired by comics than he was of live action and stuff that he used. And we're going to see Superman's greatest hits, but James will also go in his own direction. He even said that he asked Zack Snyder if he ever tried to put trunks on his Superman, Henry Cavill. Now, it's well documented if you watch any BTS on your DVD or Blu-ray or 4K special features that Zack always said when he was talking about this film, they tried a multitude of red trunks and they just didn't see. It just didn't work for them. And James said he could understand that. But we know that it was David Corenswet that convinced him to go with Superman's trunks because that's what Superman wore. That's the original design, and you should embrace the ridiculousness of what he's wearing. I kind of agree with that. But again, I love the Cavill suit. I've said this before, I can embrace no trunks and I can embrace trunks as well. When it comes to Superman being adapted in comics or in live action, I don't have a rigid mentality. I loved what our Miles did with Smallville, that they were breaking some canon, because if you're breaking canon in an inventive way, I'm here for it. If you're trying to rewrite history, I'm not here for it. So I liked the changes that our Miles made to the Superman lore, and it was fine with me. I love Superman and Lois. Again, they make some changes to the lore, but it's inventive, it's fun, and it works. And in Man of Steel, we got a contemporary post 9/11 version of a real world Superman, and I loved it. And I'm here for what James is attempting to do. I don't have any rigid opinion. I don't want when it comes to pre-existing characters. I don't have any kind of. I'm not rigid. I'm all right. If you try and do something different, I think you should try and do something different, not for different sake. But if I want to watch Superman 78, I can watch it. If I want to watch Man of Steel, I can watch it. If I want to watch Smallville, I can re-watch those episodes. I don't need those things to be done again in the same way. Unfortunately, some fans, not all, don't have that mentality. They will die in their own hill of the things that they love, and that's the problem with readapting pre-existing beloved characters like Superman. But yeah, he in the press briefing for that trailer premiere, look, I get wound up like everyone else does when I see Supes, when I see Matt Ramos and all these, wastes of space at that premiere. I get so annoyed. They should not have been there. They're taking selfies with James and David Corenswet and Rachel and, the cast. And it annoys me. They shouldn't be there. You, the ordinary fans, should be there. Not a bunch of influencers, but they're there because they're seen as influencers that can convince us to go and watch this movie next July. The truth is, I'm not going to need any convincing to go and watch this film. And so, yeah, it was very interesting reading. I mean, I told you that James Gunn wasn't going to give us Christmas off, and he didn't, as we heard more and more on what he said. And he's now said that this is a dark movie. There's no denying it. There's no hiding place from it. It's going to be a very, very dark movie. And that, my friends, is very, very interesting to me. I love the trailer, but, when you see, you know what the trailer reactions reminded me of? Most of the trailer reactions were this: oh my God, James Gunn gets it. This looks so much better than that horrible Man of Steel. Their words, not mine. I adore Man of Steel. We had this with all the trailers of The Force Awakens. Oh man, this looks so much better than those terrible prequels. Again, it's interesting that I love the Snyderverse and I love the Star Wars prequels. But I'm a man who appreciates other people's views. If you don't like the Snyderverse, I understand why. If you don't like Man of Steel, I understand why. If you don't like the Star Wars prequels, I understand why. I just happen to love all those things. It's not like I'm blind and I don't see the issues that you do with those things, but I embraced them and enjoyed them all the same. And that's where, so this is what, isn't it interesting now? Nobody likes that, or most people don't like the sequel trilogy, but now everyone is appreciating the prequels because George had something interesting to say. And it was well done. Yes, there was a lot of CGI. I mean, that film was mostly done in CGI. Maybe there was too much CGI. But I always saw it. This is George's baby. This is George Lucas's vision. If he wants to have two clowns having lightsaber fights, he can. It was his decision. Without George Lucas, we would never have had Star Wars, so I never saw the issue with that. The Snyderverse is finished. If you love it, you can go back and watch it whenever you want. If you don't have to. Warner Brothers reacted to the box office. They wanted to make more money from a Superman movie. They wanted to make more from Batman versus Superman. And that was their prerogative as a movie studio who owns the copyright, who owns the DC property. They see more of a money-making potential. So James Gunn was brought in. Someone that many, many people who love this stuff love. The only people who don't like James Gunn are the Snyder fans, the diehard Snyder fans. Let's be honest about that. I'm not saying they're right or wrong not to like him. There's other people who don't like him, I suppose, because they don't approve and are offended by those jokes he made about children who have been abused. And there's no defending those jokes. There's not. And I wouldn't dare to try and do it. But as far as I know, James Gunn hasn't committed any crime. He's committed a moral atrocity, if you like, by those jokes because they were they were terrible. There's no question about that. But because he doesn't seem to have committed any crime that any of us can prove, I'm moving on from that. I love Superman. He's going to give me a Superman film next July. And by God, by the gods, I'm going to go and watch it, whether people are offended by that or not. And I will give you my genuine opinion. When I watched that trailer live, and I was loving it, they were my genuine feelings. When I did another video and rewatched it properly and reacted to it properly, because when I watched it live, it was hard to hazard my views on it. I'd only seen it once. This is why I re-recorded a more organised effort of my trailer reaction. And I enjoyed it. I don't have any issues with that trailer. I think it's fantastic. And it's a brilliant piece of marketing. So I'm very excited for this movie. And we'll see if my excitement is dashed yet again. Because we are in the modern era. We mustn't be naive and we know where we are. But I do feel that maybe entertainment may start to heal. They're always going to have these views. They're always going to hate men. They're always going to have these crazy opinions, right? And ideological opinions. But the point is, they're going to keep them under the bed, if you like. And we're actually going to start to see great entertainment because these studios and these networks and these streamers are dying. They know what we don't want. And the fans and audiences and consumers have voted with their backsides by not going to movie theatres and putting their backsides on those seats. They need to make money. When this all started, when this extremism and propaganda started in the entertainment industry a few years back, they thought that people would, embrace their stuff and consume their stuff whatever points they were trying to say. No matter what hatred they had for us, the audience, we would come back and say, smack me in the mouth again, baby, kick me in the balls again, it's fine. And they realised we're not willing to do that. So I do believe we are beginning to heal. And I think the healing process could begin with Superman. Because we can't underestimate the views for the trailer. Over 250 million views is the types of views that $2 billion properties make, billion-dollar plus properties make. Now, of course, those views don't guarantee anything, and we mustn't get carried away. But so far, as I keep on saying, so good.